Welcome back to part two of tier listing Trump's cabinet picks and the nominees that have happened. We're going to keep going down. We're going to do it in order of ascension to the presidency, which is basically the order that they were created in, until we get through them all. Don't expect me to spend as much time on each pick as I did in part one, partly because I was also explaining how much they fit into each tier category to be an example of it. So the very next pick is for Attorney General, and that's Pam Bondi. And here's the simple fact: Pam Bondi spent 8 years being Attorney General of the state of Florida. Florida is the third most populous state in our country. Okay, that makes her well qualified to move up to the federal level of being an attorney general. She has run attorney general offices before and large ones. Okay. I know she said things that probably liberals don't like, but the fact is she's qualified and a lot more qualified than Matt Gaetz was. So it's a pretty refreshing pick. It's someone who should really be confirmed because she's been qualified for the job. She clearly is that A tier. She hasn't worked for the Department of Justice at the federal level, but has all those qualifications to be Attorney General and fits there. The next one on the list, and many people might not realize this, the next department made was Department of the Interior. Those first ones are the big four that people often leave their job in the Senate to be part of. Most people don't leave their job in the Senate to be head of the Department of Interior. And we have Doug Bergman. And I'm actually going to put Doug Bergman also in A tier. He's the governor of North Dakota. Now, North Dakota has a lot of federal territory in it. North Dakota has a lot of Native American tribes, and and it's got a lot of natural resources. And all of those are things that the Secretary of the Interior has to deal with. Doug Bergman has also done things as a businessman and also now as a governor of an entire state, meaning he knows how to run large organizations as well. That seems to put him well in the A tier and well qualified to be Secretary of the Interior. The next one I've had a little bit of problems with. Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rawlings. She has experience as a domestic policy advisor, and it is true agriculture is part of that domestic policy. Uh, it is, but there was no specialty in it. She, though, does also have a bachelor's degree from Texas A&M in agricultural leadership. Okay, I mean the A in Texas A&M stands for agriculture. So if there's any university that's going to have an agricultural leadership degree, Texas A&M, great choice there. Okay, and that makes it really hard for me to place her. I could see her being C because she's done nothing to lead an organization or a department. Um, and I mean, she has a bachelor's degree in agricultural leadership, but that seems pretty low compared to actually leading these things. But she also was a policy advisor, and it included agricultural stuff, which could put her into the B category. Uh, Overall, I think I'm going to put her in B, but I could see an argument for C. And the reason for that is probably with a bachelor's degree in agricultural leadership, as well as having been a domestic policy advisor, she gets that part. But what she doesn't have is actually hands on leadership skills of heading a department, which means she has qualifications in some areas and not other areas. So I'll give her the benefit of the doubt and put her into the B category, but it's shaky. I could see people putting her in C. We now get to the first of the departments where we often end up with people in the B category, and it's no exception. Howard Lutnick is going for Secretary of Commerce, is going in the B category. And he actually is A category when it comes to commerce. He knows commerce well, he knows business well, he's a successful businessman. He understands that part. The thing is, the Department of Commerce also happens to include NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. They control the weather service. You know, the people who tell us what the weather's going to be. Why are they in commerce? They're in commerce because Nixon didn't like his Secretary of Interior, so he wasn't going to give them NOAA. NOAA is actually over half the budget of the Department of Commerce. It's huge. Lutnick has no experience predicting the weather or studying the ocean and things like that. Don't worry, almost every Secretary of Commerce has had no experience with NOAA. That's why they put someone else in charge of NOAA. I don't know exactly who it is currently. I know a few years ago it was actually a Navy officer who had a degree in oceanography who was the head of NOAA. And basically the secretaries go, "Really? That's what you're doing? Sounds awesome. Keep doing it." Um, and that's probably what Lutnick's going to do. On the commerce stuff, he's going to have opinions and everything. And when it comes to NOAA and weather, he'll be like, I'll talk to the experts. So, yeah, probably should get confirmed. Good luck finding someone who fits the bill well. Any better. Next, we have our Department of Labor, and that's Lori Chavez DeRimmer. She is a very popular pick, and with good reason. She's A tier. She is a former congresswoman, and her specialty in Congress was labor issues. All right, and she's well liked by organized labor too, and a Republican. And yeah, at the point where she was on the committees that dealt with labor, that those were the bills that she specialized in writing. She's totally A tier, well qualified. Will probably sail through the confirmation process. Um, Probably because she wasn't a senator, that's why she's not confirmed yet, and Marco Rubio is. But she'll get confirmed. She's going to get confirmed and doing well. We've had a string of really great picks here. You know, we've had 3 A's so far, and 2 B's. We were bound to get a low one, and that is Health and Human Services, and that's Robert Kennedy. And maybe because I'm now a science teacher who cares a lot about the scientific process and teaches health, um, I put him in F tier. Okay. Here's the fact: he doesn't have experience with health or human services. Uh, he has experience with environmental law, specifically with agricultural workers. Uh, I would put Robert Kennedy higher up if he was being nominated to be the head of the EPA or if Secretary of Agriculture, because he does have experience in both those areas. He doesn't have experience in health and human services. He's also been a vaccine denier. He's said vaccines are linked to the MMR vaccine is linked to autism when it's not. And in fact, the study that linked it has been discredited. All right. He doesn't seem to understand how molecular bonds work, and that once you become a molecule, you don't have the same properties as the element that is part of that molecular bond. And he's just denying science left and right. This is what the F tier is for. It's someone whose beliefs are antithetical to what the goal of health and human services are, because The FDA and the CDC are actually charged by Congress to follow the science and use the science. RFK doesn't use the science when it comes to health stuff. So he's antithetical to the department. Furthermore, he doesn't have any qualifications. Like, even if he didn't believe that stuff, he'd be D tier. He's not a doctor. He hasn't done anything to be qualified for this. And then when you get into his denying vaccines and stuff like that, F tier. He should not be confirmed, and Republicans should not confirm him, and Democrats should not confirm him. He is unqualified and has beliefs that are antithetical to the medical profession and following science and what the department is for. We then get into the hardest person I had to place, and that is Scott Turner here. Scott Turner is a nominee for HUD, Housing and Urban Development, and oh my goodness, I could see him in like all over the place. Okay, so just to give you a brief history, he headed the White House Opportunity and Revitalization Committee. All right, he did that under Trump, and he was the head of that committee. And what that committee was supposed to do is come up with plans for specific economic development underprivileged zones and to help develop them and to utilize cross department methods. So let's get multiple departments to do what they're doing, not just HUD, to help things out. Let's talk to the Commerce Department too to help get businesses started there. Let's talk to the Education Department about what schools are doing in there, and even get private industry involved as well. That's what he's done. So he has some experience. He definitely does. And this committee ended up being housed under the health, under housing and urban development. Uh, and so I don't know where to put him because I don't. I know that committee created a 152-page report about what things needed to be done. Uh, I know he's done work in that area, but he was not head of a government department. So, and I don't know how much he actually knew. He was the head of the committee, but there are people who are heads of the committee and actually let everyone else do the work, and they just are kind of like they're making sure everyone's communicating. So if that's all he was doing, he'd be C tier. If he knew a lot about the policy methods and all of these other things, but doesn't have the experience implementing them, because I don't think he did. He would be B tier. But then you also have the fact he actually get kind of work for HUD as well. Um, I'm gonna put him B tier. I've tried to get information on what the committee did. Other than the report, it's a little hard to come by. Remember, he was on the committee over 4 years ago. I'm going to put him in B tier because the committee, at least what the committee did, even though I can't find out what he individually did, the committee did create a very expansive report about revitalizing areas that were disadvantaged. That is one of the main goals of housing and urban development, the department. Uh, but he definitely was leading a committee. He was not leading the whole department, which means he's sorely lacking in that experience. And so and it was only in these certain areas. It wasn't in everything, not nearly as much when it comes to housing. So I'm putting him in B. But if people disagree with me, there are arguments to be made that he's all the way down in C tier, and there are arguments to be made that he's way up here. I'll put him here, though. He's the hardest one to place. Almost all the others I felt like I could pretty objectively place them, including the ones that are coming, which brings us to Sean Duffy, Transportation Secretary. All right. Sean Duffy is a D tier, and here's why. He's a former congressman, and nothing he did in Congress had to do with transportation. He didn't serve on any committee that dealt with transportation. He doesn't have any transportation experience at all. None. He's a D. He's unqualified. I don't know why he got nominated other than Trump likes him. That's it. That's all I got. He's completely inexperienced. I don't get it. We then get to Department of Energy, Chris Wright, and just like so many departments of energy, he gets into the B tier. And here's why: Chris Wright has actually been a businessman who's been involved in multiple projects that have dealt with energy and everything from green energy and renewables to coal and natural gas. He's done it all, very well experienced when it comes to the energy industry. The thing is, the Department of Energy also has another job that most people don't know about. They are supposed to safeguard our nuclear weapons stockpile. Yeah, um, that's very different than drilling for natural gas and burning it in a power plant. A lot different. Um, The only thing that has any relation to would be nuclear power, which he actually has a little experience in. But even that, there's a difference between commercial grade nuclear fissionable material and what's used in an H bomb. This is why most secretaries of energy have been B tier. Historically, Trump chose another B tier one, perfectly fine. Guess what? So did everyone else before Trump. Um, just because he's B tier should still be get the nomination, pass them. You're good luck finding someone who fits the bill unless they're the former Secretary of Energy. It's about the only person who could. We then get to education. Linda McMahon. Um, she's C tier. She's about as qualified as I am to be Secretary of Education. Why? She has no experience with education. She's hasn't been a teacher. She's been the wife of Vince McMahon, head of the WWE. She has been part of the WWE organization in the background, helping to run things. And that's about it. Like, I guess she's helped run a large organization, but it wasn't government, it was for profit, and she has no educational experience. I actually thought about putting her at D tier. The only reason I'm putting her at C tier is because she's helped run a big organization at least. Um, but otherwise, she's D tier because she just has no experience when it comes to education. Very weird pick. Don't know why she was picked. Don't know why she should get confirmed either. Doesn't have the experience. And then we get to the VA, Doug Collins. Let's after a lot of not so great ones, we're back in the A tier. All right, Doug Collins is a veteran who, while in Congress, served on the committees that looked at veterans' issues and veteran affairs. He is a poster child to be a qualified person to lead the VA. Okay, and yeah, he just the only thing is he hasn't actually worked in the VA. So yeah, clear A tier pick. Totally should cruise to get confirmed. Great, great, great idea. Our very final secretary and the last person we're going to talk about for this video, and then we'll do a few other of these little people down here for part 3, because they're not actually cabinet secretaries, but they are positions to be confirmed. And that is Christy Noem, Homeland Security. And I'm really not that happy with the fact that she's already getting pushed through. She's probably C tier, uh, maybe B tier. And here's why: she's the governor of South Dakota. All right. She also served a brief stint in Congress. While in Congress, she didn't serve on a single committee that dealt with anything Homeland Security deals with. She wasn't looking at border issues, she wasn't looking at immigration, she wasn't looking at natural disasters. Uh, Even intelligence would slightly have something to do with it, because the NSA is part of Homeland Security. Um, it's just not there. And then she became governor of South Dakota, and the only emergencies that she's had to deal with have been storm related. So she does have some experience with natural disasters and storms, and she has really no other experience. And I mean, you could argue that her being a governor and leading a state gives her some big group knowledge, as well as having done some forms of natural disasters, and maybe that goes here. But I mean, really, she got the nomination because she's taken such a hardcore stance on the border, which her state doesn't have. What? She only borders other states. In fact, it was always weird, the really hard stance she took in South Dakota about the Mexican border. It's not very great. All right. So, I mean, I could see an argument to put her in B tier. Um, but that's stretching things. She's really just underqualified and a weird choice for it. And probably picked just because a staunch Trump supporter who railed on the border. So these are the cabinet secretaries. These are the ones who have been nominated, and if you notice, for it, it's still not that bad. We got 5A candidates. We have 5B candidates. Two of them are for positions that you always end up with B level candidates. So you're really getting the best that you're going to get for them too. There's a lot that are qualified enough to get confirmed. But there are some like less qualified people, and that's more than most presidents do in these tiers. We'll see how things go. And we'll also see you in part 3 when I talk about these other pictures down here. You might recognize some of them, and we'll get into how they're qualified or not so qualified. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you in part 3.